First story, Whispering Pines Retreat by Emma Thompson. The biting cold of the winter night seeped through the cracks in the cabin's logs, chilling me to the bone. I had chosen Whispering Pines Retreat for its remote location, seeking solitude from the chaos of daily life. Little did I know, the isolation would become a breeding ground for something far more sinister. Nestled in the heart of the Colorado Rockies, the cabin offered breathtaking views of snow-covered peaks. The silence was profound, interrupted only by the occasional howling wind. I cherished the solitude, relishing in the idea that I was entirely alone. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. It wasn't the typical isolation-induced discomfort. It was something else, a sensation of being watched. That night, an eerie symphony of creaks and groans echoed through the cabin. Each sound seemed to amplify the solitude, making the isolation palpable. I dismissed it as the settling of an old structure, yet the nagging feeling of unease persisted. I awoke to the sound of footsteps outside my window. The snow-covered ground should have muffled any noise, but these steps were deliberate, as if someone were pacing just beyond the reach of the cabin's feeble light. I peered through the frost-covered window, my breath catching as I glimpsed a shadowy figure disappearing into the trees. Days turned into nights, and the footsteps persisted. I began to question my sanity, blaming the isolation for conjuring phantoms in my mind. But one evening, as I stoked the fire, I noticed footprints leading to the cabin, fresh imprints in the powdery snow. Fear clawed at my throat as I considered the possibility of an unwelcome visitor. I fumbled for the phone, realizing with a sinking feeling that there was no signal. Panic set in as I locked every door and window, the isolation that had once been my solace now a suffocating shroud. The footsteps grew louder, now accompanied by whispers on the wind. Unintelligible words carried through the pines, sending shivers down my spine. I questioned whether it was a prank, a twisted game played by locals, or perhaps something more supernatural. Night after night, the unseen presence tormented me. Objects shifted in the dark, strange symbols appeared on the walls, and the temperature inside the cabin fluctuated wildly. I was caught in a web of paranoia and fear, my sanity slipping away with each passing day. Desperation gripped me as I ventured into the woods, driven by an inexplicable force drawing me deeper into the heart of the Whispering Pines. I stumbled upon an old cemetery hidden among the trees, its gravestones weathered and forgotten. The whispers intensified, revealing the tragic tales of those who had met their demise in these woods. As the whispers grew louder, an otherworldly force surrounded me. Shadows danced among the trees, and a bone-chilling voice echoed in my mind, a warning to leave before I, too, became a resident of the Whispering Pines Retreat. Terrified, I fled the cabin, leaving behind the haunting isolation that had become a prison. The footsteps and whispers faded into the distance as I descended the snow-covered slopes, vowing never to return to the cursed haven hidden in the Colorado Rockies. Second story, Frostbitten Echoes by Samuel Grant. Nestled in the remote reaches of Alaska, my winter cabin stood as a fortress against the unforgiving cold. The isolation was both a sanctuary and a curse, providing solace yet awakening dormant fears that lurked in the shadows of the Arctic night. The howling winds outside mimicked the banshee's wail, a chilling symphony that reverberated through the snow-laden trees. With no neighbors for miles, the desolation was complete, making every creak of the cabin seem amplified in the vast emptiness of the frozen wilderness. As the temperature plummeted, I sought refuge in the warmth of my hearth. The crackling flames danced in a hypnotic rhythm, casting flickering shadows that seemed to come alive. The illusion of movement became unnerving, as if unseen eyes watched my every move. One frigid night, the usual symphony of the Arctic was disrupted by an unearthly scream. It echoed across the frozen landscape, sending a shockwave through my very core. I dismissed it as the cry of a distant animal, but the lingering unease clung to the air like frost on a windowpane. As the days wore on, the scream returned, closer and more desperate. Each time, I ventured outside, only to find the desolate expanse unchanged. I began to question my sanity, wondering if the isolation had driven me to hallucinate. One evening, as I sat huddled by the fire, a soft tapping echoed through the cabin. I froze, straining to discern the source. The taps grew louder, rhythmic, like a ghostly heartbeat. Panic set in as I realized the sound emanated from within the walls themselves. With trepidation, I followed the sound to a hidden compartment in the floor. Inside, a weathered journal revealed the tales of previous inhabitants, stories of a malevolent presence that tormented those who dared to brave the Arctic solitude. The scream, the tapping, and the shadows dancing in the firelight were the echoes of a tragedy long forgotten. The journal spoke of a family who succumbed to the isolation, their anguished souls forever trapped within the cabin's icy embrace. That night, as the Arctic winds howled in protest, I packed my belongings, leaving the haunted cabin behind. The echoes of the past faded into the distance, swallowed by the vast expanse of the Alaskan wilderness. Yet, as I looked back one last time, I swore I heard the chilling scream of the forsaken, carried by the wind like a frostbitten ghost. Third story, The Silent Blizzard by Adrian Mitchell. My winter retreat stood alone amidst the frozen landscape of the Swiss Alps, a quaint chalet hidden from the world. As winter's icy grip tightened, I found solace in the pristine beauty of the snow-covered mountains. Little did I know that nature's tranquility could give birth to a silent terror that would shake me to the core. The evenings were dominated by the eerie glow of the moon reflecting off the snow, casting an otherworldly pallor over the alpine landscape. The isolation was peaceful, until a relentless blizzard descended, cloaking the world in an impenetrable wall of white. As the relentless storm raged outside, the cabin became a haven of warmth and flickering candlelight. The wind howled through unseen crevices, creating an unsettling symphony that resonated with an unsettling rhythm. I huddled by the fireplace, the flames flickering in tandem with the shadows that danced upon the walls. In the midst of the blizzard's fury, strange occurrences unfolded. The cabin's walls seemed to shudder, and ghostly figures appeared fleetingly in the corners of my vision. A chilling draft whispered through the cracks, carrying with it indistinct murmurs that set my nerves on edge. As the blizzard persisted, I became acutely aware of a presence that lurked just beyond the veil of the storm. Footprints materialized in the fresh snow, leading to the cabin's entrance but never away. Fear gripped me as I realized there was no trace of another living soul for miles. One night, as I lay in uneasy slumber, the silence was shattered by a muffled knock on the door. The blizzard raged outside, and the rational part of my mind dismissed it as a trick of the wind. Yet the knocks persisted, rhythmic and deliberate, like a heartbeat echoing through the frozen night. Trepidation filled me as I cautiously approached the door. With each step, the knocks grew louder, resonating within the walls of the cabin. I flung the door open, expecting to confront the storm's fury, but instead, I was met with an unsettling void. The blizzard outside had ceased, and an unnatural silence enveloped the alpine wilderness. As I stood in the doorway, the whispers returned, carried by an unseen force. They spoke of ancient tales, of a presence that wandered the snow-covered peaks, seeking refuge in the warmth of human abodes. The more I listened, the more the whispers became entwined with my own thoughts, blurring the line between reality and the supernatural. Haunted by the silence and the spectral whispers, I abandoned the chalet, leaving the eerie tranquility of the Alps behind. The blizzard, once a majestic spectacle, now seemed like a harbinger of a silent terror that lay hidden in the heart of the snow-covered mountains. Fourth story, Frozen Echoes of the Outback by Liam O'Connor. In the vast expanse of the Australian outback, where scorching heat usually reigns supreme, I found myself in a winter cabin nestled in the heart of the snowy mountains. The air was crisp, and the eucalyptus trees stood sentinel against the cold. Little did I anticipate that the desolate beauty of the outback could harbor a chilling secret. The cabin, a rustic refuge, seemed out of place against the backdrop of the arid landscape transformed by snow. The isolation was serene, the quiet interrupted only by the occasional gust of wind carrying echoes of distant howls. As the night descended, the cold permeated the cabin, and the desolation took on an unsettling tone. One evening, as I stoked the fire, a shadow flickered in the periphery of my vision. I dismissed it as a trick of the dancing flames, but the unease lingered. The air inside the cabin seemed to grow colder, and a soft melody of whispers played in the background, barely audible above the crackling of the fire. The isolation took on a new dimension when strange symbols appeared on the walls, seemingly etched by an unseen hand. The cabin itself seemed to exhale icy breaths, as if harboring a dormant force that awakened with the arrival of winter. I brushed it off as the quirks of an old structure, but the feeling of being watched persisted. One night, the outback fell silent. No wind, no distant howls, just an eerie stillness that settled over the snow-covered landscape. I ventured outside, the crunch of frozen grass beneath my boots the only sound. As I gazed into the vast emptiness, a figure emerged from the shadows, its form indistinct against the moonlit snow. The figure approached, its movements deliberate yet ghostly. I strained to make out its features, but it remained a silhouette against the frozen canvas. A voice, neither malevolent nor benevolent, whispered ancient tales of a spirit that wandered the outback, seeking solace in the rare embrace of winter. The whispers spoke of a forgotten time when the land was blanketed in snow, and the spirits of the outback found respite in the cold. As the climate changed, the spirit was condemned to wander eternally, searching for the elusive touch of winter. Haunted by the frozen echoes of the outback, I left the cabin behind, the spectral whispers fading into the distance. The snowy mountains, once a sanctuary, now held the weight of a chilling secret, a tale of a spirit condemned to wander the arid expanse in search of a frozen respite that eluded its grasp. Fifth story, Shadows in the Scottish Highlands by Fiona MacLeod. My winter refuge was a stone cottage nestled within the rugged Scottish Highlands. Surrounded by ancient hills and mist-shrouded lochs, the isolation was both a sanctuary and a breeding ground for the shadows that lurked in the highland gloom. As winter's icy fingers tightened their grip, the moors became cloaked in a haunting mist. The cottage, weathered by time, stood as a solitary sentinel against the desolation. The distant howls of the wind and the eerie calls of unseen creatures echoed through the glens, creating an atmosphere steeped in ancient tales and untold mysteries. One frigid night, as I stoked the hearth, the shadows seemed to dance in the corners of the room. At first, I dismissed it as a play of light, but the shadows took on a life of their own, a spectral waltz that moved with an unsettling rhythm. The temperature in the cottage dropped, and the air thickened with an otherworldly presence. The highland mist, dense and impenetrable, served as a canvas for a ghostly procession. Figures clad in ancient garb emerged from the fog, their faces obscured by time. They moved silently, their gaze fixed on the cottage, as if seeking something lost to the ages. Haunted by the spectral dance, I ventured into the mist-choked moors. The ancient stones, remnants of forgotten civilizations, whispered tales of a highland clan cursed by a vengeful spirit. As the winter descended, the curse awakened, and the shadows of the past manifested in the haunted dance that played out before me. The cottage became a battleground between the living and the spectral, the very stones resonating with the conflict that spanned centuries. Objects moved of their own accord, and the whispers of the ancient clan's demise reverberated through the air, painting a tragic tale of betrayal and revenge. As the shadows closed in, I sought refuge in the attic, where a chest lay hidden beneath layers of dust. Inside, I discovered an ancient journal chronicling the curse that bound the highland spirits to the land. The Dance of Shadows, a manifestation of the clan's eternal struggle, sought resolution through the passage of time. The journal spoke of a ritual, a means to appease the vengeful spirit and break the cycle of haunting. Armed with newfound knowledge, I descended into the misty moors, guided by the whispers of the past. The shadows converged, and the highland air crackled with energy as I performed the ritual, invoking the spirits to find peace. As the last echoes of the highland dance faded, the mist lifted, revealing the silent beauty of the snow-covered glens. The shadows, once haunting, dispersed like wraiths into the winter night, leaving the cottage standing alone, no longer a battleground but a solemn witness to the highland spirits, finding solace in the frozen embrace of winter. 6th story, The Frozen Labyrinth of Lapland by Erik Johansson. Nestled in the heart of Finnish Lapland, my cabin stood as a haven against the biting cold of winter. Surrounded by a labyrinth of snow-laden trees, the isolation was both enchanting and foreboding. Little did I know that the icy tendrils of the Arctic night would weave a tale of frozen terror beneath the northern lights. As the auroras danced in the starlit sky, the cabin exuded a warmth that contrasted the frigid wilderness outside. The snow-capped pines whispered tales of ancient spirits that roamed the frozen expanse, seeking refuge from the relentless chill. The isolation was profound, but the untold stories echoed through the vastness like a haunting melody. One winter night, as I reclined by the fireplace, the cabin's walls seemed to pulse with a strange energy. Shadows flickered in the corners, and the air crackled with an otherworldly presence. The temperature plummeted, and the ethereal glow of the northern lights cast an eerie hue upon the snow-covered landscape. The labyrinth of trees outside transformed into a spectral realm. Figures, clad in frost-kissed garments, glided through the snow with an unnatural grace. The sound of distant bells echoed through the night, and the cabin became a gateway to a winter realm untouched by time. Driven by curiosity and an inexplicable pull, I ventured into the frozen labyrinth. The northern lights illuminated the path, revealing ancient symbols etched into the snow. As I followed the ethereal trail, the air resonated with a haunting melody, a song of frozen echoes that beckoned me deeper into the heart of the Arctic night. the labyrinth twisted and turned, revealing frozen sculptures that seemed to breathe with life. The spirits of Lapland, once bound by the icy chains of winter, danced in the glow of the northern lights, their movements a mesmerizing spectacle. I was an unwitting guest in a realm where the frozen air carried the tales of centuries. As the night wore on, the spirits' dance became more frenzied, and the air grew colder. I realized that I had become a part of their frozen symphony, entangled in a tale of ancient rituals and untold secrets. The northern lights pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and the spirits, once peaceful, took on a spectral urgency. In the heart of the labyrinth, a figure emerged, a guardian of the winter realm, its eyes ablaze with an ancient power. It spoke of a prophecy, a convergence of worlds that could only be witnessed beneath the northern lights. The spirits sought a witness to their eternal dance, and I, an unwitting traveler, had become entwined in their frozen tale. As the dawn broke, the northern lights faded, and the spirits of Lapland retreated into the labyrinth. I found myself standing alone in the snow-covered expanse, the echoes of the frozen dance lingering in the crisp morning air. The cabin, once a refuge, stood silent against the backdrop of the Arctic wilderness, guarding the untold stories that played out beneath the northern lights. 7th story, The Haunting Silence of the Bavarian Forest by Anna Miller. In the heart of the Bavarian forest, where centuries-old trees stood sentinel against the winter winds, my cabin became a refuge from the bitter cold. The dense woods, normally alive with the chatter of wildlife, now held a haunting silence that hinted at a deeper, chilling mystery. As the snow blanketed the forest floor, my quaint cabin nestled among the pines seemed like a haven untouched by the passage of time. The isolation was both serene and unsettling, the air thick with the weight of the ancient woods. Nights fell into a deep hush, and the stillness seemed to absorb every sound, leaving only the distant crunch of snow beneath my boots. One evening, as I sat by the fireplace, a subtle tapping echoed through the cabin. The source eluded me, a phantom noise that seemed to originate from the very heart of the forest itself. I dismissed it as the idiosyncrasies of an old dwelling, but the tapping persisted, gaining a rhythm that mimicked the heartbeat of the ancient trees. Driven by curiosity and an undeniable unease, I ventured into the woods. The trees, gnarled and twisted, whispered tales of forgotten rituals and ancient curses that lingered in the shadows. The silence became oppressive, broken only by the sound of my footsteps and the distant tapping that echoed through the Bavarian night. Deeper into the forest, I stumbled upon an ancient shrine, adorned with weathered symbols and long-forgotten offerings. The tapping, now a spectral drumbeat, seemed to emanate from the very core of the shrine. As I approached, the air grew colder, and a veil of mist enveloped the sacred site. The forest came alive with shadows, figures clad in tattered garments, their eyes hollow and haunted. They moved with an eerie grace, their spectral dance a macabre celebration of a forgotten pact made centuries ago. I stood at the edge of the shrine, an unwitting witness to the spectral ritual that unfolded beneath the moonlit canopy. The tapping reached a crescendo, merging with the haunting melody of the ghostly dance. The ancient woods seemed to vibrate with an energy that transcended time itself. As the night wore on, the spirits' movements became more desperate, as if trapped in a perpetual cycle that demanded resolution. In the depths of the Bavarian forest, the spirits beckoned me to join their haunting dance. I hesitated, torn between the allure of the spectral celebration and the fear that gripped my soul. The tapping became a hypnotic rhythm, and the spirits' hollow eyes bore into mine, pleading for release from the eternal dance. As the first light of dawn broke through the forest canopy, the spectral figures dispersed, fading into the shadows. The tapping ceased, and the ancient shrine returned to a quiet, forgotten corner of the Bavarian woods. I stood alone, the haunting silence lifting with the retreating spirits. The cabin, once a sanctuary, held the weight of an untold story, a tale of an ancient pact, a spectral dance, and the haunting silence of the Bavarian forest. As I returned to the cabin, the woods whispered their secrets, and the hushed voices of the ancient trees lingered in the air, carrying the echoes of a chilling mystery. 8th story, The Enigmatic Whispers of Patagonia by Carlos Rodriguez. In the heart of the vast and desolate Patagonian wilderness, where the winds whispered ancient tales across the rugged landscape, my winter refuge stood as a lone outpost against the unforgiving cold. Little did I realize that the echoes of an enigmatic past would weave a tale of mystery and suspense beneath the Southern Cross. The Patagonian night was alive with the distant howls of wind, carrying with it a sense of isolation that seemed to stretch to the ends of the earth. The snow-capped peaks loomed in the distance, their jagged outlines silhouetted against the starlit sky. The cabin, a humble abode, appeared dwarfed by the immensity of the untamed wilderness. As the Southern Cross hung low in the celestial expanse, a strange phenomenon unfolded. Whispers, soft and indistinct, resonated through the cabin. The wind carried secrets from a time long past, tales of nomadic tribes and mysterious rituals that once echoed across the vast Patagonian plains. The isolation became a canvas for the voices of the ancient landscape. One night, as I sat by the flickering fire, the whispers grew more distinct. They spoke of a hidden cavern, concealed within the labyrinthine canyons of the Andes, where the boundary between the earthly and the supernatural was thin. Intrigued, I ventured into the wild, guided by the ethereal voices that beckoned from the unknown. Navigating the treacherous terrain, I stumbled upon the entrance to the fabled cavern. The air inside was thick with a sense of ancient power, and the walls were adorned with petroglyphs that depicted a story lost to time. The whispers reached a crescendo, weaving a narrative of a nomadic tribe that sought refuge in the hidden depths of the Andes. As I delved deeper into the cavern, an unearthly glow illuminated a chamber where shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own. Figures, spectral and translucent, emerged from the rock itself, their eyes reflecting the centuries that separated them from the mortal realm. The spirits of the nomadic tribe, bound by an ancient pact, carried the weight of untold stories. The whispers spoke of a ritual, a passage through time that required the presence of a willing traveler. I hesitated, aware of the risks that lay ahead, but the allure of the mysterious Patagonian spirits was too compelling to resist. The ritual unfolded, the air vibrating with an otherworldly energy as the spirits and I became entwined in a dance that transcended the boundaries of time. As the ritual reached its climax, the cavern echoed with a deafening silence. The spirits, once trapped between worlds, faded into the ancient rock, leaving me alone in the silent chamber. The Southern Cross shone brightly above, a witness to the enigmatic whispers of Patagonia that had guided me on a journey through the ages. Returning to the cabin, I carried with me the weight of an ancient tale, a story of nomadic spirits, hidden caverns, and the captivating mystery of the Patagonian wilderness. The whispers lingered in the air, a reminder of the timeless secrets that lay beneath the Southern Cross, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to venture into the heart of the untamed landscape. 9th story, Shadows of the Midnight Sun in Norway by Christina Olsen. In the remote reaches of Norway, where the midnight sun painted the Arctic sky in hues of gold and crimson, my cabin stood as a solitary figure against the frigid expanse. The isolation was both enchanting and foreboding, a dance between the ethereal beauty of the northern lights and the shadows that lingered beneath the Arctic sun. As winter descended upon the Arctic landscape, the cabin became a refuge from the biting cold. The northern lights, a celestial ballet of color, danced across the heavens, casting an otherworldly glow upon the snow-covered fjords. Yet, beneath the captivating spectacle, an unease settled in the air, as if the shadows themselves were drawn to the ephemeral beauty of the Arctic night. One evening, as I gazed upon the auroras from the warmth of my cabin, a shadowy figure emerged on the edge of the fjord. It moved with an unnatural grace, the silhouette distorted by the shifting lights. I dismissed it as a trick of the Arctic twilight, but the unease lingered as the figure seemed to beckon from the frozen wilderness. Driven by an inexplicable compulsion, I ventured into the night, the crunch of snow beneath my boots echoing in the stillness. The shadows played tricks, elongating and distorting, as if the Arctic landscape itself was a realm of illusions. The figure led me deeper into the fjords, its movements mirroring the ethereal dance of the northern lights. As the midnight sun dipped below the horizon, the shadows converged, forming a spectral congregation on the frozen surface of a lake. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as the figures, now revealed as ancient spirits, engaged in a dance that transcended the boundaries between the living and the spectral. The spirits spoke of an ancient pact, forged beneath the midnight sun, that bound them to the Arctic landscape. They were guardians of a realm caught between day and night, and their dance was a ritual that ensured the delicate balance between light and shadow. The unease that had gripped me was a manifestation of their eternal struggle. Compelled by a sense of duty, I joined the spectral dance beneath the northern lights. The Arctic landscape pulsed with an energy that transcended the physical, and the spirits guided my movements with an otherworldly grace. As the midnight sun painted the horizon in hues of pink and gold, the dance reached a climax, and the spirits merged with the celestial lights. In the aftermath, the shadows dispersed, leaving me standing alone on the frozen lake. The northern lights shimmered overhead, their colors reflecting the spirit's final act of the night. The cabin, once a refuge, stood silent against the Arctic twilight, guarding the untold stories of the midnight sun and the spectral dance that unfolded beneath its eternal gaze. 10th story. The Frozen Vale of the Carpathian Mountains by Dragos Radu. Nestled within the towering peaks of the Carpathian Mountains, my winter cabin offered a breathtaking view of the frozen valleys below. The isolation was both a respite from the chaos of the world and a gateway to the mysteries that shrouded the ancient landscape. Little did I know that the Carpathians held secrets that would test the boundaries of reality. As winter's icy fingers tightened their grip, the cabin became a sanctuary from the biting cold. The snow-laden trees stood like silent sentinels, their branches adorned with frost. The night, dark and foreboding, hinted at the presence of hidden forces that lay dormant in the Carpathian wilderness. One evening, as I stoked the fire, a peculiar melody resonated through the air. It was as if the wind itself carried the haunting notes, an ethereal symphony that seemed to echo from the very heart of the mountains. I stepped outside, the crunch of snow beneath my boots the only sound in the frozen night. Guided by the mysterious melody, I ventured into the valleys, where an ancient forest stood in solemn silence. The trees, gnarled and twisted, seemed to whisper tales of forgotten realms and supernatural beings that roamed the Carpathians. The melody grew more distinct, leading me deeper into the frozen embrace of the mountainous expanse. In a secluded clearing, the source of the haunting melody was revealed. A spectral figure, clad in a cloak of frost, played a violin with fingers that seemed made of ice. The melody, both beautiful and melancholic, transcended the boundaries of the natural world. The figure, an otherworldly musician, spoke of a hidden realm that existed between the tangible and the ethereal, a place known only to those who dared to follow the frozen melody. Compelled by a sense of curiosity and a yearning for the unknown, I followed the figure deeper into the Carpathians. The landscape transformed, and a veil of frost seemed to descend, creating an otherworldly realm where reality and fantasy intertwined. The figure played on, its melody echoing through the frozen valleys, drawing me into a realm where time held no dominion. In this surreal realm, ancient spirits emerged, guardians of the Carpathian mysteries. They spoke of a delicate balance between the tangible and the supernatural, a frozen veil that separated the mortal world from the ethereal. The melody, a conduit between realms, was a key to unlocking the secrets that lay hidden in the heart of the mountains. As the figure played the final notes, the veil lifted, and I found myself standing on the outskirts of the ancient forest once more. The Carpathians, cloaked in the stillness of winter, seemed unchanged, yet the melodies lingered in the air, a reminder of the supernatural realm that existed just beyond the frozen veil. Returning to the cabin, I carried with me the echoes of the Carpathian melodies, a testament to the hidden forces that resided in the heart of the mountains. The isolation, once a refuge, now held a deeper significance, as the Carpathians whispered tales of a frozen realm and a spectral musician who played the melodies that bridged the gap between worlds. Thank you for joining us for the whole video. That video you see on screen is one of my favorite. Check it out. If you've enjoyed these horror stories, show your support by hitting the subscribe button. Did this tale send chills down your spine? Let me know in the comments.